Hello, hello everyone, and welcome to this beautiful video with, Pooja and myself on the temple being a deep teacher for all of us. Um, hmm. So, Pooja, last temple, just a few weeks ago in as I remember it,
Yeah.
it's so close still. I remember at some point that we were in the big sharing circle and you mentioned this theme of containment. Actually, it was control and containment, and that just sparked my interest straight away because it really touches upon something that I believe we all
Mm.
feel and that we all get different, encounters with. And I'd
Yeah.
like to ask you some questions around that, or maybe for you to speak about this
Yeah.
theme.
It's like, it's one of my favorite topics. Um, yeah, so I'm very happy that that caught you, and that way, yeah, it's a beautiful way now that we do this in like an interview form. Also, because I'm in this crazy situation in my personal life right now, while I'm in yeah a hospital situation with my mom. Things are going a bit better, so I feel a little bit more spacious. So I am happy to dive in. And this containment thing is, yeah, let's do some busting. Hmm.
Yes, please.
Containment usually gets the narrative that if you have to contain something, it's tight. And this is because we have somewhere in our system, and the bigger system around us is trying to force it upon us, is that we have to live a life from control. You have to control yourself. And I don't want to go too much into semantics because it's also how you use the words, of course. But trying to control, for now, I would like to say that's where you become tight and think you can bypass life, or outsmart life, or outsmart the body, or energy life. While containment is actually something that has a liberty to it. Containment is, and there's a simple metaphor which has to do with fire. Um, so maybe first, why do we talk about containment? Why is it so important? Um, Life has a lot of life force energy, and we are not used to live with that. Our society is not built upon giving us our full permission to live a life that is full of our own creative life force. Life force is also that, like it is similar, and it comes together with sexual energy, and you can use it in various ways. So if that inner fire is burning, um, it's had such a transformative power in daily life, in our creativity, and in our sexuality. And it's even hard to kind of cut them in pieces, but let's do that for a moment. And at the end of the day, it's all the same. But what happens if you're in a space where sexuality is a possibility, where sexuality is invited in, where we are moving with eros included? So that also means, what I'm saying with that is, like, without suppressing a very important part of us, but you can use it in various ways. So in the temple, we invite eros in to play through us, not to just be sexual with everyone. It is like, it's that huge opening to life. It is that mystery that opens us deeper, as that we can imagine in, yeah, usual steps of the day, daily life. Throughout the day. That's what I'm saying. So, a beautiful metaphor for containment and the fire is like a fireplace, whether that's outside when you do a fire ceremony, or you have a fireplace inside. You want to have a contained space for the fire to be able to burn. And I don't know if any one of you has been in a forest fire before. That's uncontained fire, uncontained energy, and it's epic on its own because it's like, but it takes over everything, like The only thing you can do is get out of the way or try to, what they do is water, or any other um, techniques, which I don't know so much about. I rather go with containment for now. So when you have a contained space for the fire to be able to burn, then you can keep on throwing wood onto it because it has that space, so it can actually really move through. And the beauty of that is that it burns away what is in the way, our stuckness. Um, and it just wants to let us open some more gates. Like, how can we come forth? I'm noticing I'm stumbling over my words. Maybe I should take a breath. Mhm.
Yeah, and I was also thinking, like, in the preparation to this topic and our talk, you also mentioned the word collapse. And actually, while you were sharing about that fire, how if it's not contained, it's just, it's going to spread everywhere.
Yeah.
So, and that metaphor feels like, that's kind of what can happen if we, instead of trying, I mean, the trying to control our sexual energy is like rigidity, like
Mhm.
it's tight, but collapsing into it is like the opposite. It's like, like,
Yeah, I call that something sexual diarrhea,
right.
and it goes everywhere, and that has to do, like it is a containment is a muscle we have to train.
Mm,
And it's the funny thing is it's a really good muscle because it gives freedom. So the better we know how to contain, so there's a few layers to that. I will go into that. The better that we can contain, the more freedom we have access to. It goes hand in hand. And also the more free we can actually move. And freedom, again, is not without power. So when you're centered, you need two things. You need your centeredness and being plugged in,
mm,
staying home in your pelvis. So this is always what I say, there's a ball that we rest in, that's our pelvis. And there's a spine that taps into that really deeply and that holds us. And you can sit and rest into those two. That's your basic, your base, the seat of our soul, of our being that we can sit in. And that's in our human body, but underneath and around us or through us, there is even a larger holding. And if we can lean into that more, if we dare to trust, and if we can tap into the energy field that holds us, um, then you don't have to react so easily, uh, suddenly. Like if there's reactivity a lot, that means that there is no restedness in us, in our bodies, in our systems, and also not being rested in something larger than ourselves. Containment needs all of that. If we don't have that, it is either collapse or control. So containment is actually, so if you have collapse and control on each side of the stick,
mm-hmm,
then containment is the antidote for it all.
mm-hmm.
And usually it will, containment is being seen as the controller. And that's not true.
Mm-hmm.
So
So,
tell me a bit more, like what caught your interest on that containment, because
yeah.
there's something that sparks in you on that.
Yes, well, I love when, like, I tend to see things like in visuals. When I hear words, it's like, yeah, uh, with the word containment, it felt like, it's something that you can hold, that you can carry. It's something that creates that inner safety within yourself. That's why it really caught my attention, because I do feel that this is something that's like a lifelong lesson, isn't it? On
Yes, we're
how
very
to,
much learning beings on this.
exactly, on how to keep ourselves safe and understand that we're also, like you said, carried by something bigger
Mhm.
in the field.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to, when there's some kind of threat, even though there isn't a threat, but if there's a perceived threat, to become reactive instead of responsive. And for me, it kind of tapped into that as well. Like when you're able to contain yourself on whatever level, we're talking about sexuality now. But it's like you said, it's like on every part of life. And it really, for me, it means, being more responsive and having that inner leadership, which is obviously something that I, that is part of my daily life in my work. But that's what it touched upon.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. There's a beauty to, there's a surrender into that. When we have surrender, that is larger than just feeling safety in ourselves. It needs safety from the knowing. Like there's a knowing that you're safer than you think you are, that you're larger than you think you are, that you're being held beyond what you think you're being held by. That's in yourself, but also around yourself. And when you come across something that makes you like, ooh, perceive like, ooh, there's an unsafety there, that's not even usually a happening, but it's already in our internal system. It's all, you bring that already to the space in yourself, into the experience of the moment. So this is the work. Like, how can we come to more expansion in ourselves? And that is, for example, one thing is there is a physical thing. Like, if we stretch ourselves a little bit, there comes more space. So that's in the body, that's in the system. Also in our energy body, there is that. How can we give space to our energy body? We are more energy beings than physical beings. We have to remember that. Listening to the body is another beautiful piece. Like the body is always a guide. And a body has also a trauma response because that's imprinted. And sometimes that is talking and not the deeper wisdom is talking. So there is so much to learn and to discern and to be with. This is why I always say, like, okay, go slow and really feel, but not so slow that you're kind of backing off. That's another part of that whole thing. Like if you're like, I'm very contained right now, but actually you're not engaged. Yeah. So it is, like it has to, it is really a centerpiece. Like, how can you not be in it? How can you not be overstepping it? Because you see that also a lot, like, like, oh, the sexuality is there, that's great. And then you're not feeling it anymore. I used to be, and I still am, very sensitive to when that is happening. I'm like, oof, something feels off. I'm not feeling that something wants to open deeper, because that's the only aim. Like, how can you let this open yourself deeper? And how can you rise higher through this experience? Whatever the fucking experience is, literally or figuratively.
Yeah.
Um,
when I hear you speak about this also reminds me of, and I was also in the same temple, and we were speaking about boundaries and about when boundaries are quite rigid. I mean, it's good to know your boundaries, it's good to feel that, but there's also a level of fluidity there, that if you're because you're talking about staying in the safe zone, and maybe stretching that, not to the point where it becomes re-traumatizing.
Here and
sorry, the connection was
a little cut, yeah.
Yeah.
So you say in the safe zone that is appearing to be safe, but it's not really safe.
No.
It's taking yourself out of the situation, out of experiencing fullness. At the end of the day, it's all about how full can I let myself be? Can I let that fullness run through me? Because sexuality and your sexual energy is yours. It has nothing to do with interaction at the base. So start here. And this is the first piece that we work with. Like, it is here, also on boundaries. When there is, sometimes there is a need for strict boundaries, like knowing a boundary in yourself. Sometimes there's a need to that, especially when you don't know how to navigate yourself in every second. Because yeah, also on a certain level, I feel boundaries are overemphasized in a certain way. And you cannot say upfront, this is my boundary, because then you're not in the moment. Then you're trying to control usually something. And if you're not sensitive, if you either you're not sensitive enough yet to listen to all the little wisdom that comes through how you feel best in navigating or opening yourself in a situation, or when you feel like, oof, I have to take a breath here, and that you can ride all these waves. Now, that is the ideal situation, because then you are like on top of how life force energy wants to move with you, and you move with that. But then there's all these stories in our head, like, oh, but then she doesn't like me anymore, then he will leave me, or then I will lose the moment, or I don't feel worthy enough, or I feel shame. So, and then we actually, how do you say that? Undermine ourselves. But also it's the other way, like, oh, if something opens, do you dare to lean in more? Because something's actually opening. Or are you holding back then? So it is really, like a total navigation. And sometimes we know, like that's another piece of art. Like if we know from ourselves that I don't know how to navigate this, I am not sure if I can keep feeling myself and act on it. Sometimes you can still feel yourself and you cannot act on it anymore. Then it's good to say, okay, I'm gonna have this box and move in this. This is what I know I can hold, and let's play in the box first, and then see what happens. Perfect. But if you put yourself in boxes over and over again, like no, 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 I know myself. This is not for me, and that is like that. That is like that. Then you're trying to control something that actually wants to move you in ways that are for you. So and also that it's there is no shortcut to enhancing your growth in this. It is feeling, tuning, trying out, playing. But the containment piece, let's do the collapse. Let's speak about collapse a little bit. Collapsing is, for example, there's two sides that we feel is easy, and you can try that on various life situations. But I'm continuing with a sexual piece because everybody knows then sometimes it's so exciting and everything starts to play out. So, for example, you're in a meeting with someone and the distance is quite far away, and you're feeling, yeah, I feel myself, I feel this person, and there is a meeting point there. And I can breathe into that. I can still feel myself while I see and feel the other. And that's beautiful. Um, if you start to come closer undeliberately, because if you do that deliberately, you can start to feel like, oh, where can I still feel myself? Maybe I have to take one little step back. Ah, yeah, now I can feel you again. And really write the whole journey. And at the end of the day, like life, there is the union desire for everything, the oneness desire. But the oneness doesn't have to be physically close. The oneness can also be here, and really feel like, pooh, here is a piece of magic, and stay there. But because that is so much more exciting, because it exposes you more, like, ooh, I'm visible in where I'm really at. So what we usually do then in that space is like, poof, take off, like, oh, make a joke, or oh, step back, or whatever. Or make such a remark that it cannot other do than just cut that interesting interaction or energy connection. Then there's another side to that you just go close really soon. And that is also a collapse. Like, oh, let's just, hug and kiss or make out or whatever the thing is. And then there is also this, and there is a beauty to that. There is a piece that you feel like, because when bodies meet, I'm not saying that's 100% true for everyone at every time, but bodies love to meet each other. There is a goodness on skin to skin feeling, having the hearts close together. And of course, there's a goodness in that too. but we then skip all the steps that we could be navigating. And that's the muscle that I'm talking about. Like, can you navigate each little section that you're in with the risk to lose it all? If we cannot take the risk to lose it all, whatever it is, or whatever the story around that is, then you cannot navigate yourself into containment. Either you go collapse or you try to control and take off or avoid. Or yeah.
Yeah, and what I find interesting is how, like you said, sometimes it's a good thing. It's like some people you just want to cheer them on, like, yes, please
Go
go for
for it.
it.
Yeah. Let me see. I was trying to catch something already. Ah, yeah. Yeah. There's a sentence I wrote about. It says the primal and divine energies can meet, blending into ecstasy, deepening our being while transcending personality. It is that big. Hold on now. Let me see if I can still, yeah, find you back. Um, yeah, and even in that, go for it. That's, like, let's say somebody is lacking a bit of the deeper embodied raw, like the primal force. Um, then you're like, okay, get down, get in it, like, let's feel you, let me,
Mm-hmm.
and there is such a beauty to that. And it doesn't mean that the moment that you get primal, that you just totally lose yourself and there's no consciousness anymore. So yeah, so sometimes I think you're referring to, sometimes I encourage people to say, like, okay, if there is so much controlledness, go play. Go play, go breathe into it, to lean into it a little bit more, see where you can stretch yourself a bit. Like, it's the same thing as stretching your body. Stretch your experiences a little bit, and to meet that, like, oh my God, I didn't even know I could do something like this. Like, play. That's good. But it doesn't mean that it has to take away your conscious levels. And sometimes it might, because we have not, when you are so much in control all the time and trying to control things, of course, you have not trained that muscle so well. So there might be moments that you collapse. There might be moments that you're just like, woo, that was flat on my face. Or, yeah, and that's fun too, like little babies don't learn to walk in a day, and there's little pieces in us that we have to try out. And I would like to say to everyone, like, find the joy in that. And also in, like, in that deeper containment, while you're, like, always there, like when you always bring in your sensuality, when you always have a feeling like, I have to seduce life all the time, there is a little bit that thing that I feel sometimes, that the feminine is being correlated too much to just the sensual being. Of course, that is true. The feminine wants, it is the feeling, the touching, the um, yeah, all the senses are there from the feminine. That's why we are human beings, because we have that feminine core on a physical level. Like, the reason why we are here in a physical form, that we are able to be here, like, let's make better use of that, is because of that feminine, um, yeah, the yin quality of life. But it doesn't mean that we are only sensual beings when we are women, because the feminine is larger than that. Women are also larger than that. And there is also this deep rooted wisdom. There's, like, there's many goddesses and they stand for everything different.
Yeah.
And there's only one Aphrodite, for example. And then you have a lot of other ones that embody something different. And together there's this wholeness. So what I would love is that, like, I something totally cracks open in me when I see somebody who has that dark capacity to really dive in, to be primal, to claim, to own, to penetrate, to, surrender, and to really be all that, while you still see there is something larger still home right there. That thing, that motion is moving around a deeper wisdom. There's a deep centeredness with that. I'm even goosebumping when I speak this, like, that's, fuck, that's the thing. Just, this is not doing it for me. just primal, or just, you see it sometimes with men's work, just like doing the haka and really being strong, powerful, doesn't do it for me. But it's a combination when the fluidity, the fire, and there is this deeper wisdom, that deeper knowing, and you really see like somebody is so plugged in to something larger, and then to come into the transpersonal, then I'm just like, cool. That's home.
You're actually touching upon a topic that I was wanting to suggest to do a video on as well. Given our time, I would like to actually close it here and maybe keep this as a source of inspiration for a next chat, because this is
Can you
also,
reveal a little hint on that? I'm curious what that is.
well, it is about, how there's so many different ways of embodying the feminine or the masculine or whatever is in between, and that it's not just this one flavor. And that's something that yeah. So the fact that you touched upon this right now, I'm like, yes, please. Because there's this idea, of how we need to embody the feminine. I'm like, no, it's just too one-sided. It gets boring at some point. Please,
Yeah.
let's just embrace all of these different flavors and find our own way in it. So yeah, I
And
see.
also, yeah, including in that for me, like life is cyclic,
Yeah,
and um, as we speak, we are a certain age in on a human level, and we have all ages in us. There is this pure baby in us. There's this old crone in us. Um, they call it the hag, for example. Um, and everything in between, like we are all that, and all these ages and stages in us, they need space to play. Because if we just think like, oh, it is that stage that we are in, then you're missing out. And all this inclusivity, like the more we include, so I'm bridging it back to a wrap up. um oh my god, I can't, this is where it goes beyond words actually. Like, if we drink in all that deep life wisdom, which we can only comprehend little bits from, yeah, but still, even though we don't know, there is a deeper knowing when we give space to that. It makes it easier to train that muscle of containment, because it doesn't. This is a very important piece I want to end with. Identification, if you think you know who you are, or identifying with a certain experience, or but that really happened, or whatever it is, and that makes something tight, which usually is, and we don't even recognize it as tightness. This is where we can't learn how to be containment itself. Like, I love to speak about your presence and your containment. So that does already something to, I have to contain, I have to be present. That might makes it already a bit narrow in identifying realms. So I'm presence and I'm containment.
yeah. So de-identifying.
Disidentifying. Yeah. 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 And this is nice bridge also to your topic that you just plugged on, the feminine, masculine, and identifications around that.
Next time.
More to come. Great.
More to come. Thank you for this chat. Very
Mm.
inspiring.
Yeah, thank you. It's delightful to do it like this.
Yeah,
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much, love.
thank you.
And talk soon. And thank you, everyone. Like, it's really nice to feel this inclusivity with tribe, with people that really love to deepen and really, like, yeah, want to drink in life in a way that goes beyond words. Let's just leave it there.